All right, cousin Tone. This gentleman right here that we have coming on tonight is just a wealth of information when it comes to the hobby. He has a massive YouTube presence where he shares his hobby journey as well as providing breaking sports card hobby news. Not to mention, he's a family man, a gamer, and a Stranger Things nerd, just like me, bro. So here he is, Mr. Dustin, aka Sports Card Dad. Welcome, Dustin, to the Cousins Collectibles podcast, brother. How you doing, man?
Wow, I'm doing great. That was an awesome intro, Oz. I appreciate that. Man, I need to
We
take
like
that.
to do it up a little bit here.
I'm gonna clip that and just put that into my videos. I think just like people are like, what the heck? Yeah, no, that was awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it, man. We came across your YouTube, and dude, you do so many things. I mean, from like we talked about Stranger Things, which I absolutely love myself and my daughter. And you're a dad, and that's your name, Sports Card Dad. So you have, I believe you said 4 children, correct?
That's right. Yep.
Yep. And so you're starting to bring them along in the hobby. So give us some of your thoughts on bringing the next generation of collectors into the hobby, the kids, how you work with them, and how the current narrative in the hobby can be somewhat damaging. There's a lot of negativity out there, so how do you work that with the kids, trying to stay positive and teach them the right ways to be in the hobby?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because when I got started, it was a different world. I mean, I got started in 1987, 1988, and it was just a very different time where you could very easily find packs of cards at the gas station, the grocery store, pretty much everywhere. And it was kind of the first coming of Beckett magazine where you had price guides that were really kind of taken seriously. Started with Beckett. So really kind of the money part of the hobby. It didn't necessarily start in the late 80s, but that's when it kind of supercharged was in the late 80s. And it's really kind of carried on from there. We had a little bit of a break in between where I think, folks kind of got out of the hobby and so forth. But I think that once you start having the price guides and different things, it started to really kind of energize, the space. So, nowadays it's just so much different. Now the manufacturers are doing a lot of different things. If you're a young person in the hobby, I mean, it's all about kind of the big hit, the big insert or the auto or that. When I was a kid, that wasn't even a thing. It was like, oh my God, I got a Joe Montana card out of this. And it was just
Yeah.
I'm stacking, Joe Montana's or whatever. There wasn't a chase. There wasn't a hit out of those packs. So it's just such a different feel. Now you've got, sports betting, sports gambling. I just saw Fanatic Sportsbook just opened up in Washington Commander Stadium, so the sports betting side, I think, is really kind of taken over a lot of the breaking space and a lot of the sports card stuff. So if
Mhm.
you're a young person, I said it too. I was like, man, I wish that there would be more emphasis on those base cards should really be like trading cards for young people.
Yeah.
Instead of it being like throwaways, it should be
Right.
like that should really be like what the young people are like, oh, sweet, I got a Mahomes base card, but that should be celebrated along with, I think, kind of the monster hit. But that's kind of the problem, though, is that's not how it's necessarily presented. When you enter into a break, all the excitement is around the big hits. And
Yeah.
I hope that there's a little bit of a kind of a balancing act there.
That's tough. Like you said, and I remember we had a conversation with one of our good buddies, Corky the Collector. He's an old vintage guy, and that's strictly what he does. It's vintage. He could care less about what's going on brand new in the hobby and cards. But we were talking about like national treasures and these big boxes and what they have. Like you said, we're always going for the hits. And he's like, bro, well, what about all the base cards? What's everybody doing with those? And we're like, nobody, they could care less about them. He's like, dude, if I were you guys, I would just collect all the base cards because that's, he's a set collector. That's what a lot of vintage guys do. They build sets. He's like, I would just have just a set collection of all base cards. And then 10 years from now, people will be like, yo, whatever happened to all them base cards from National Treasures or
Yeah.
Flawless? And Corky be like, I got them. What's up? You need them? But it's
Yeah.
it's crazy how like all these cards, like you said, they just get thrown to the side where the kids, obviously we can't, like most of us can't even afford a box of Flawless, or
Yeah.
that's why we got to go to Breakers for that National Treasure. So those cards should have value, and they should be something that the kids can go ahead and use to understand the hobby, trade, and do things like that.
I mean, even retail on the shelf, even though now, okay, people aren't buying and flipping retail from Walmarts and Targets, even that is like $30 for a box of cards. I mean, when I was a kid, I was going and getting, it was $1 a pack, and I get like inflation and different, all that changes. But I mean, like 20, 30, $40 for a blaster box to get 8 cards, 10 cards, or even 20 cards or whatever. I mean, that's a lot compared to what it used to be. And so I think that if you're parents trying to get young people in, you have to focus around singles. I think just during the way it is now, unless prices come down, they come out with cheaper price products. I mean, unless you just have that disposable income. But I mean, for a lot of folks, so $40 at Walmart is a lot for a box of
Yeah.
cards, even if it is Prism or whatever. It's like, hell, you can go on eBay and buy a lot of your favorite player, 20 cards for $5. You may as well just skip the pack and just go right on the eBay and just get whatever players you want.
Hmm. It's just the problem, like you said, it's the culture. So these kids, they have instant access to everything. We had to go to the library to get any kind of information and things
Yeah.
like that, or use encyclopedias to get that type of stuff, or have somebody we know, say, that worked at a hobby shop, or somebody that was well versed in it. But like kids today, they have access like that to any type of information. And so the culture is, like you said, just get the hits, get the hits, get the hits. So it's almost like, why should I start at the bottom when I can go right to the top? All I need is the money. So that's the tricky part.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what those answers are, but even when I was a kid too, it was like 89 score football was the set that I could not afford. I could afford 89 pro set packs all day long. And I think too, if you're, a young person here in this world, it's like, you have to understand that you might not be able to get flawless. Like, there's adults that can't afford flawless. If you're 10, you shouldn't have flawless unless, Mark Wahlberg's your dad or whatever. I know he opens
Right.
boxes. So, but most of us just aren't there. I think that
We're
people,
not, but you'd
No.
be surprised, these kids that are walking
oh, I
around with
know.
these iron cases with
Yeah.
150,000, $250,000 collections, and you're just like,
Yeah.
mouth drop, like, wow. You just feel
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm just gonna go over here. You keep doing you,
Yeah.
brother.
It's wild.
I mean, like, can I just be your brother?
Yeah.
Like walking around with the kids.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Dustin, speaking about, with the way it's all set up, you talked about on one of your recent videos about future generations, will they care about vintage? And I think so for us, oh, for me, I'll say, because Oz really doesn't dabble too much in the vintage. Um, I think like we were told we're supposed to like it because like this is what like. And when we first got back into it, and the guy referenced Corky's like, hey, you should be collecting this, the vintage stuff. And I like it for the history of it. But I'm wondering, does a kid today, is he going to care about, I don't know, pick your whoever, is he going to care about Honus Wagner 30? A kid who's 12 today, is he going to care about Honus Wagner when he's 35 or 40? Like we kind of see it like, yeah, we should probably care about that card. That, I don't know. Where do you see that going?
I think that there's certain cards that are kind of just hobby stalwarts to where they're always
Mhm.
going to be valuable. Like that 52 tops mantle is always going to be a thing, no matter what,
Yeah.
So I think where I was really going at it is with that kind of question is kind of those borderline Hall of Famers. Kind of like if you look at baseball cards are interesting because there's a lot of set collectors and there are a lot of collectors for kind of the lesser known Hall of Fame type players. And I've always wondered, like, how come people don't care the same way, in basketball or football? Like I've got Roger Staubach rookies, I've got a Terry Bradshaw rookie, and
Mhm.
yes, it's got value to it, of course, but it doesn't even compare to some of these, to some of the baseball stuff, and even just lesser, like guys I've never even heard of that are in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
And you could there's a lot of different answers to that potentially, but yeah, I guess I just kind of wonder with kind of those lesser, kind of those the people that aren't just talked about all the time, because a lot of it is hobby narrative and we're always wrapped around Mickey Mantle or it's
Yeah.
it's Willie Mays and it's like
Babe Ruth.
yeah, I mean it's and those things are limited in a sense to where and those are kind of the ultimate kind of the legends of the thing, but I just wonder. I mean, and I think too, a lot of people just wonder about physical collectibles in general.
Right.
A lot of people laugh. And I'm not a huge NFT guy. I'm not going to even pretend like I understand it. I'm 41
Mhm.
years old, so like I'm way behind, on all that. But to think that there's not going to be any sort of digital collectibles in 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years down the road, I think that there definitely will be. And then it's kind of like, then the question is does that take a chunk out of that physical collectibles market? And maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's completely separate. Maybe it never takes off. Maybe it never does anything, or maybe it does kind of, maybe the physical collectible stuff does kind of, wane a little bit. I mean, who knows? Everyone kind of falls back on we've got 100 years plus of sports cards, and that's true. I don't think that no one's going to collect cards in 20 years. Like, it just goes away. But technology changes things, and you just have to. I always kind of look at, like, what's the worst case scenario on all of this stuff. Not that the money is everything, but at the same time, I do care about the value part. That's something that I do talk about on my channel. I am a collector, but if I'm gone tomorrow, I also don't want my wife to come up and find all this cardboard and it's absolutely worthless. Like, I PC Drew Brees, and I love Drew Brees, but the reality is there's only so many Drew Brees collectors. I'm not going to buy every single Brees card. I'm going to be very specific in what I'm looking for, because like I said, I've got 4 kids, I've got a wife, I've got a family. So I want to try to be strategic when I'm buying. So yeah, it's tricky, man. I know I just went off on like 5 different tangents there, but
no, we're with you.
I do think that vintage, I don't want people to take it as like, I don't think that vintage will be relevant. I certainly do. It's just, the evolution of all of it is going to be really interesting.
Yeah. And just something popped into my head when you're talking there. With football, to me, that's America's game right now. To me, it's totally surpassed baseball. And it's just strange how Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, you name it. To me, my biggest one is Joe Montana. The fact that Joe Montana is not like worth way more than Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, like, that just drives me up a wall. So those cards, it's just strange how those don't, to me, get they're not valued as much as I think they should be, because again, football is, to me, that's the end all be all. That's the top sport to me. And if somebody wants to say something else, that's fine. But it's just strange to me how those values of those cards just they're not where I think they should be. So
I agree. I'm surprised that when we look at, like, the big money folks that are, the investor types, I guess, that are out buying big cards, why there's not a PSA 10 Joe Montana that you see frequently on YouTube, or like you said, a PSA 10 Roger Staubach, because I think those are, you said it. I mean, like I think a PSA 10 Montana is like $70,000 or $80,000. A PSA 10 Walter Payton is like $80,000-$90,000. It's a lot of money, but yeah, there's a $250,000 Josh Allen card floating around somewhere. Like, I mean,
no Super Bowls.
I would stack all that, vintage stuff. I mean, especially in those 10s, there's literally there's like 40 copies, 50 copies. I mean, and PSA. I'm not a pop control conspiracy theorist, but those pops are not growing dramatically. Like, it's not like there's going to be 1,000 of those one day. There's, if there's 50 of them, there's not going to be many more than that. I don't think. They're pretty tough.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I get you. And it's like, with me, it's hard for me to collect somebody that I've never seen with my own eyes play. And I get, the whole history of it. And I respect that, like I said, the Babe Ruth and, the Mickey Mantle and Jackie Robinson, so on and so forth. We know everything that they've done for the hobby and for sports and what they mean. But if I see the card, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's historic. That means something, but I don't have a connection with it. It's not like, oh my God, I got to have that Mickey Mantle. No, I don't. Mickey does nothing for me, So I can get it now. You talk about Michael Jordan, you talk about Charles Barkley, you talk about Allen Iverson, you talk about, like he said, Joe Montana, or, even Randall Cunningham. We're diehard Eagles fans, so Donovan McNabb, even though they're not that great, but those are the guys that we, grew up watching and that we idolize, the John Elways of the world. Shoot, even Peyton Manning, I think, doesn't get as much love as he deserves. Tom Brady, finally, after winning that last one, it was just like, okay, he's the GOAT. He's the man. Here you go. We're going to shower Tom Brady with all the hobby love that you could ever imagine. And, and that Tom Brady, now it's dipped down a little bit, but as of right now, he's the man. It's Tom Brady. And then it's prospecting. That, like, literally, that's what the NFL is. It's Tom Brady and it's prospecting on QBs. And you could care less about, Calvin Johnson or any kind, Jerry Rice, or, like you said, as far as the card values, there's some cards that they go for a nice penny, but compared to the people that we're prospecting on that have done nothing as far as winning titles or anything like that, and even winning MVPs, it's disproportionate, and it's sad because too, like, one, who has the money to be putting that kind, like $150,000 Josh Allen, who's just throwing that around? It's not the regular collector, but I guess there's dudes out there that it's funny money to them. So I guess it doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a tax break or whatever the hell they do, but either way, nobody really has that type of money. But to just be playing in that type of environment, let's just break it down to say, instead of the $150,000 card, like the $5,000 to $10,000 cards that kids are messing around with the Justin Herberts, and that were even like when Lamar Jackson was hot. So even within like a 6 month to 1 year period, those cards, as far as how they can go up and down, it's just ridiculous. So your money is nowhere near being safe with those type of investments. And then you could be like, yo, did you ever think about maybe getting into the real, Tom Brady's the GOAT, but I could say the second GOAT is Joe Montana. Why wouldn't you want to put that $5,000 into a card like that?
Yeah.
And then they
And I
look at
guess
you like you have three heads. It's
the
like,
big
Joe
question
Montana.
mark, I think, too, is what would, like, okay, if we go back to 81 tops, what would it look like if, there was a game used patch auto card that was in those packs that you could
Yeah.
pull? That card would be insanely expensive now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to kind of rebuff, I guess, to talk back, or, what would
Mhm.
be the, I guess, what would the Josh Allen person paying $250,000 say? Probably that. Well, if Josh Allen turns out to win 4 rings and, has that Montana career, well, this is the flawless, this is now
Right.
where it gets a little hairy though is there's a bunch of different patch auto, cards for these
Yeah.
guys. And that's really the problem. If there was only, I could understand more if Josh Allen had a handful of autos out of his rookie year or something,
Mhm.
then the price tag actually, like, okay, well, I mean, someone's just taking a big risk,
Right.
but no, he's got like, 100 different cards that are signed and different
Mhm.
products. And, so it's tough, man. Yeah. I mean, we're all in kind of this crazy world now where there's not any precedent for it. So it's
Mhm.
like
Right.
in 20 years, it might be like, oh man, those are bargain prices. Like we don't know. We have
Yeah.
no idea. Or it'll be like the biggest, screw up of all time. It'll be like, wow, people actually paid that money. Can you believe they paid that money?
Yeah.
Somebody will be right and somebody will be wrong,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, there's only like one. You know what I mean? There's usually a
Yeah.
generational player. So these guys are investing in all types, at least 10 to 15 guys putting in big money and hoping and praying that out of those 10 to 15 that they pick that one, that 10 to 15 years from now, the 5,000, 10,000, $15,000 that they put in there can turn into 500,000, or something crazy down the line. And that's hoping and praying. And I'm just not willing to go that deep, but
Yeah.
this is a nice little segue into the next question. I do go deep, and that's every week I'm ordering something. Every day I'm looking on my eBay. I'm trying to figure out something that I can add to my collection. And it's funny because I got back into the hobby about 3 years ago. And before that, dude, I was a miser of all misers. I wouldn't spend a dime on anything. I would be mad at my wife if she went out on little shopping sprees, because once it was payday, like every Friday, we get paid every other week. So she gets paid one Friday, I get paid the other Friday. But it didn't matter the Friday. She was taking at least $250, $300 to go ahead and go on a little shopping spree. And then that was just it. It was normal. That's what's happening. I don't care what you're saying. I'm going to go on my little shopping spree. So I would be arguing with her for years. And then finally I got back into the hobby, and here I am down here in my man cave on eBay. And I'm just constantly ordering this stuff. Now I'm a mailman. So I had to curtail the mail so she can see what I was ordering. So
Yeah.
I had a little, I know the guy that does my route. So I'm meeting him at the post office, getting my mail day and bringing it, having it with me all day, opening it while I'm on my break and having these cars, and then sneaking them down into my basement. So, and it became, like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money on this stuff, but it was so fun. It was like cloak and dagger, Mission Impossible, trying to get past my wife, and then getting those, that adrenaline and that dopamine rush every time you open that card. And before you know it, I have this huge collection, but I have a huge amount of debt too, because I was like, damn, I spent a lot of money in a short amount of time, because at that time was the height of the FOMO. where everything was going up, 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 up. And I'm like, man, if I don't get this stuff now, if I don't get this Kobe Bryant rookie now, there's no way I'm going to get it later on. If I don't try to get this Jordan card, there's no way I'm going to get. So I just kept telling myself. So now, you just had recently where you said, listen, I have a card addiction. You came out and it wasn't a joke. A lot of times, people say things like that, but at first I was like, is this guy joking? Is he being serious? Because, sometimes it's for clickbait just to get a
Sure.
view.
Yeah.
But you were serious about it. Like you admitted, you're like, listen, it's become a problem. It's something I talked to my wife about. We had a discussion and, like talk to me about that whole situation, where how it came about, like how you came to grips with saying, yes, I have a problem. I have a card addiction. It's not like an alcoholic or things like that, but what we were talking about before, an addiction is an addiction and it takes many different forms. But how did you come to, that realization, and what are you doing now to try to, fix the issues that you were going with?
Yeah, and just going back a little bit, I have an addictive personality, I think. I mean, I smoked cigarettes in my 20s, and it was a thing where I had my buddies that could just go and do it socially, like, hey, we're gonna go grab a beer, and they'll have one. I would end up having a few and then buying a pack the next day. And so it was something I finally did kick at in my late 20s. Finally, and I haven't touched it. And now, if someone says, hey, you want to grab a cigar or something, and I'm like, I just won't touch anything because I don't trust myself at all.
Yeah.
And so, habitually, I've kind of caught myself in that previously based on that. And so I had been buying cards, I mean, really for going on a few years, really consistently. And especially since I'd started the channel, which is 3 years in March, not every week, but, it's really kind of ramped up. And it got to a point too, where, you're just constantly, you're checking your eBay watch list. And part of the great thing about this whole, like, it's a collector's market, it's a buyer's market. There's deals everywhere, but that's kind of part of the problem, or that was the problem for me is okay, prices are coming down on a lot of stuff that I've been wanting. And now I can actually get into stuff, and you find that it's just endless. When you find that my watch list is full, I have too many things on my watch list. If I can't actually watch any more things,
Bro, I've been there many times.
and
I
so
gotta delete stuff.
yeah, and you're watching auctions and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going cheaper than I thought, and it just becomes a thing. It becomes a pattern. We do have fortunate to have disposable income. And my wife and I we talk about our budgets and things. And she had a couple conversations with me like, hey, a lot of packages, coming through. And I kind of, part of the reason why it came to the point where I made the video about it was, it wasn't as if, we hadn't had any conversations about it. It was like, she had brought it up a few different times. It was like, no worries. Like, we're all good. And it wasn't as if I was getting into huge debt or putting, the family at risk or anything like that. But I wasn't being honest with myself about my buying patterns. And then I also wasn't really being transparent enough with her to where it was like, kind of what you were saying, I was about just like moving packages downstairs or whatever, I was doing that too. And it's like, when I'm like sneaking, like running, like to get the mail so that she doesn't see it, it's like, that's probably not a good sign.
Listen,
like
my wife would be like, you're sneaking downstairs again. When you go directly downstairs, I know you're up to no good. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like if I ever say, what are you talking about? That means I'm doing something naughty.
And I think I kind of fell into the trap of like, well, hey, look, I mean, I'm not just blowing this money. Like this stuff is worth something. Like if I need to get, hey, if we get, like, I can just sell it. I can always just sell the stuff off. And the truth is like, maybe you can sell it and get 100% of what you paid. Maybe it's 150%, but also maybe it's 50%. Right. If you have to sell something at any given point, how the collectibles market goes, it can go any which way. And, if you are like, timing a lot of times is everything. So if you have to sell something outside of the timing, then it might not be good. Yeah. If you have to run something at auction and quickly sell it, you might get hosed on it, so yeah, I just kind of, we had discussions leading up to kind of our end of year budget. Let's take a look at the numbers and kind of break down, okay, what expenses do we have coming up? I got a daughter that, is started college a year ago, but went on campus this year. We got some added expenses and so forth. And we looked at it as like, wow, I spent a lot of money on collectible stuff, and it was definitely a big check. And it was kind of like a inflection point of like, well, if I continue to do business as usual and do this this might be a huge problem in my marriage. So, and it was kind of like we laughed it off and it was cute for a while, but then it was like, it's not really cute anymore. Like now I need to make sure that, I'm on top of this. So that's why I had, made the video, really kind of just rerouted a lot of budgetary things to where now like money comes in and money's already like gone. It's like it's already kind of moved out to where it needs to go. And I feel better about it because, I feel it's more under control now. It's like, I don't want to get to a point where like I can't manage my own bank account. It's like, okay, let me have your login information so I can manage. Like that's when like I need to, I needed to figure it out. So we're in, I think we're in a good spot. We have had, so the kind of the caveat to that is if there's any sort of, buy or something, you see an auction, whatever, to where like, it's amazing. Let's just talk about it. And that actually did happen. It happened. So I bought a couple of cards that I had, disclosed everything to her about, like, okay, here's the last card that I bought was a Flawless Breeze auto. It's number 5. And this was a card I saw at the end of the year. And I had committed to buying it. But again, this is another problem. I've got to wait until my next paycheck is what I told the guy. I was like, hey, look, can you hold it until my next paycheck in 2 weeks? That was probably a signal, right? So and I think the big thing is just complete transparency with everything. But Oz, I know you're a Stranger Things guy. So a Stranger Things card pops up that I don't see very often. I don't have it yet, so I can't show it. But Series 2, it's a Will Byers, Noah Schnapp. It's auto, but it's the blue numbered out of 10. So, with Stranger Things, it's orange out of 99, it's green 50, blue 25, or excuse me, purple 25, blue 10. I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen that card pop up at all. It did pop up for a crazy, like, buy it now, best offer.
Yeah.
I talked to her about it. I offered half of what the buy it now was. He took it,
Wow.
so, but as long as it was, I think the big thing is lay it all out. Let me know. Let's walk through strategy. And the thing is too, is she's a smart financial person. So, and I said in my video, it's kind of dumb that I wasn't already like bouncing it off of her. Hey, here's a card that I think it's worth this. It's running at auction at this. I'm going to bid here. And if we win it, then that's how, like, there's kind of some arbitrage there. I think we got a good deal. And so that's kind of how we did that last card, that Stranger Things card. Technically, that was out of cycle because I made kind of a commitment. I'm not going to buy cards until Chantilly show, which is at the end of June. So I'm taking kind of like a buying hiatus. I deleted the eBay app off of my phone. It's still on my laptop. I've got it up. It's still there. So it's always there, in the background. But it's a lot easier, though, when it's not on your phone, to where you can just, like, no matter where you are, you're scrolling and looking at it. So, but yeah, no, I just, when I started my channel, it was all about just talking about my journey, and good, bad, or different. Like if I screw up, I talk about it. And this was one of those where I felt like I probably wasn't the only one. So even though it's embarrassing, throw it out there and, share it, see what happens.
Nah, I totally appreciate it, because I can connect with you and know exactly what you're going through. And I had to have I didn't talk to it about with my wife, but it was just one of those come to Jesus moments. Like, it was like, dude, you got to chill, you got to relax. Like, I came to the realization that I always say it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So you don't have to go out there, go crazy, and try to get everything all at once to keep up with the Joneses. Because you get on Instagram and you start seeing other people's IGs and you're like, oh my God, not realizing that, some of these guys have been in the hobby for 15, 20 years, and they probably bought that card for $50 or got that card from their grandfather, years ago. And now it's a $50,000 card and they're, sitting on a gold mine. But to you, it's like, oh man, I got to do everything I can to try to get those cards. So it's tough, man. And Tony, I'll let you get to the next, because it goes, hand in hand with you.
Yeah, just 2-part question, Dustin. First part is, do you think content creation or being content creator pushes the person into constantly buying cards, so that you're seen as, okay, I'm talking the talk, but I'm also walking the walk? So do you think, and I'll get to the second part, but do you think that kind of plays into it as well?
I think that it could, for sure. I will say, though, that I'm not one. Now, I do look at IG and I'll see awesome cards and think like, man, that's a great card that person has. But I don't necessarily feel like I've got to keep up with the longtime collectors, especially because honestly, like, my wheelhouse is probably $100 to $500. I mean, the most expensive card I've ever bought was $1,700.
Mhm.
So, I'm very consistent kind of playing in my, in my sandbox. And a lot of the
Mhm.
cards on IG, frankly, are, it might be a 6-figure card. So I admire it, but I'm not like, how can I mortgage the house and get that? Like, I'm perfectly fine. But I do understand kind of your point, and a lot of hobby content too over the last few years. I mean, just in general is mail day stuff. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
it's a mail day, and we're talking about the mail day. I do more kind of the news stuff, or I
Mhm.
do kind of a variety of different things, but I can see though kind of the pressures of, are you actually in this? You're making a lot of content. Are you actually one of us type thing? So
Right.
not that anyone has said that to me. I have had some people say like, hey, you talk a lot about news, but like you don't show any cards. And part of it, I do show. I mean, part of it is, look, I've made almost 1,100 videos in almost 3 years. So I probably have 50 different videos that are, mail day style showing cards, but it's just
Mhm.
lost in the mix there. So
Yeah.
actually I made a playlist so that they were all like, so that I could show like,
Smart.
hey, look, I do actually have cards.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that there is. I don't know if maybe it's subconsciously, because I don't actively think like, okay, I've got to get stuff this week so I have something to
Right.
talk about. But you're right. I mean, it could just be a subconscious thing of like, I need to be in the game. How can I talk about it if I'm not buying some stuff?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you're right. And then maybe that's an excuse for me to like, okay, well, to my family, like, hey guys, I got to buy stuff because this is my channel and I'm talking about it. So you're right. I mean, it might
Yeah.
just be kind of like a subconscious thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Like I just try to be a lot more purposeful with my buys, but and I don't do it for I don't buy just so we have stuff to talk about. But I often think about, I was like, man, if you're out there talking about it, and like you said, people are like, hey, do you collect cards, or you just come on here and just talk about it? And then you're like, oh crap, well, okay, now I got to go buy cards just to prove to some jamoke online that I, I collect. But the second part is, so how do you plan on staying active in the hobby during your buying hiatus?
Yeah. Well, and I heard a few people say, not in response to me, but just in general, because I watch quite a bit of hobby content, and
Mhm.
I'm not the only person that, if you look at a lot of longtime collectors, they don't buy that much. It's
Mhm.
funny. Like if you look at
Right.
like people that are, they went, I can think of a couple of guys, they went to the National, didn't buy one card, but they went to the National, hung out with their buddies. I think too, for me, it's like also just, being happy with what I've got. Like I've got like a wicked collection, so
Mhm.
it's like, yes, I can always continue to build and add, but it is one of those things where it's endless. You can continue to add on to that forever. So I think a part of it was, just accepting like, okay, like I've got some cool things and look through what you've got. Like, why are you constantly at the
Yeah.
mailbox when like, go back through what you already have, So, I've kind of come to grips with, hey, I don't need to, I don't have to continue to always build. I can also just talk about trends and things that I'm seeing and new product
Mhm.
and different ideas and strategies without necessarily, buying 1,000 things. So, I think maybe
Yeah.
it's just kind of being comfortable in my own skin. And again, that's part of my journey. When I first started in the hobby and where I am now, it's completely different, so I think it's
Mhm.
an evolution too, where you get in, like last year I might have been into something big, and now this year it's like, oh, I'm really into this now, and next
Yeah.
year I'm really into something else. I know, Oz, you've got a bunch of different stuff. Tony, you do too, but I've got graded video games, I've got graded comic books, I've
Mhm.
got graded sports cards, I've got, like I've got a variety of stuff. I've got, He-Man
Yeah.
figures, like, so for me it's like it's really endless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
No. Yeah. We all get that.
yeah. Well, with that being said, let's talk about it. Let's talk about your PC because we're super intrigued by what you got. It checks all the boxes for us. Like when I was looking at your stuff,
Yeah.
it's just nostalgia rush. We're talking Stranger Things, like you said, He-Man, Nintendo, retro games. It's truly impressive what you put together. So talk about how it all came together and what you got.
I think I'm just kind of an 80s, 90s nostalgia freak,
Mhm.
without, like, for lack of a better word. It's one of those, like, and I think that's a big draw to Stranger Things for me is 2016 when that show came on. It's a big throwback to the 80s. And that really kind of started. I joke with my wife and my family. That was the start of my midlife crisis because I don't know, I was like 37, 38, And so, but that's when I really started to get like, and then all of a sudden there's a new Ghostbusters movie.
Yes.
Like all of a sudden they started rolling everything out and I just got caught in that storm, So I think that that's a big part of it. I mean, nostalgia drives all of it for me. Absolutely. So a lot of the stuff is, it's 80s, 90s stuff that I either had or I remember. One thing I'll show, I don't know how old you guys are, but this is kind of going back a little bit.
Yeah.
This is like original 1985 for the podcast
Oh, you
people.
got the original.
Original Masters of the Universe stuff. So
Well,
they've
I'll give you a little hint. You're a youngster, bro.
Oh, okay. Well, you guys just look really young. Okay?
I'm 47. Tony, what, 44? 43?
Lord. I thought you guys were in your 20s.
Yeah,
Like
43. Yeah.
Man. Okay.
So yeah,
So
original
you know all
He-Man.
about this. Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
this is the, and now they've got retro version. They've remade this
Yes.
figure like 50 times. This is going back to like 1984, 1985 when they first came out in box. So I've got a few of these. I also have Moss Man, in the box.
Nice.
The loose ones you can find. I want the in-box stuff. I've got a Panther on my desk, in the box.
Yeah.
So that's a big like childhood thing for me. I know for some people it was G.I. Joe's, it was Star Wars. For me, it was Masters of the Universe.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Dustin, while you're looking for your next item, when we're done here, I'm gonna send you the IG account of our other cousin who is a Masters of him and Oz are and they're Masters of the Universe freaks.
He's Masters of the Universe. He's G.I. Joe. He's Thundercats.
Thundercats.
It's insane, his collection. Like, dude, it's nuts. But go ahead.
I've tried to buy inbox Thundercat stuff and it's so expensive.
Oh yeah.
It's so hard to find too, but
it is.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit before this is the vintage comic book side. So I've got first appearance of Black Panther. That's Fantastic Four number 52. I've got that in a 6.0 CGC, but this is one of my favorites. Hulk is kind of my all-time, like some people are Spider-Man people or Wolverine. Really, Hulk is kind of my, my vintage Marvel guy. So this is number 4 in a CGC 3.5. So this is kind of like vintage sports cards. This is like vintage comic books, essentially, Silver Age. And I just love kind of how basic it was going back to the very beginning in the early 60s. So that was one I just wanted to kind of show. I'm not a huge comic guy, but
dude, I love like just the way that CGC, the presentation and how clear the slab is. It just looks like a beautiful collectible. And with all the information, like you said, I'm not a big comics guy, but now I'm all of a sudden I'm getting into the old He-Man, like the first appearance of He-Man with Superman and things like that. So I'm going a little comic run. So another side PC that got me going down a rabbit hole.
It's tough because there's so many cool things. I'll hit you with another one that you'll remember.
Jesus.
The original Contra. Yeah, Contra. So this is WATA graded, and WATA is kind of I think it's VGA and then it's WATA are the two main video game graders. This space is still kind of in its infancy. So I was just kind of looking for good price points for this stuff. They have sealed versions, which are very expensive. It's basically a video game that was never opened.
Yeah.
This is complete inbox. So this is basically it's the box, it's the cartridge, and it's the manual. And then they grade it all out and they give it a total grade up top. And so the complete inbox, quite a bit less than what you would see in, for sealed stuff, but also not a lot of it graded either, so it's kind of cool. For me, I've got these in my office. I've got a variety of different games, but it's just kind of, you're like on a conference call, you look up and there's like all your old games and it's, kind of in
I'm like huge, like all the Super Marios, the Zeldas, the Resident Evils, things like
that. The Nintendo graded video games has been one pitfall that I've avoided. I'm still avoiding it because I know, like when cousin Tony, there we go. I was speaking in the third person.
Well, why don't you go right there? You got your Nintendo up there.
Yeah, so I have the Nintendo over this shoulder, but that's the Mike Tyson graded one is so Mike Tyson's Punch Out is my favorite game, and I've looked at it a bunch of times, and one day I'll pick one up, but. I know, and I see that I'm like, man, those things are sweet. And when you put up the Contra there, the other day I was on YouTube and I learned that Konami code, how you could put it for the 30 men in Contra, that was actually good for other games too. I
Oh, I
thought that
didn't
was
know.
only for Contra. Yeah, I saw that. I'll have to dig it up, but yeah, you could use it for
Is
I
that the
forget that was
up, down,
yeah,
left,
yeah,
right,
left, right, A, B, A, B, yeah.
AB?
So yeah, or B, A,
Oh, I
B, A,
did
something
not
like
know
that.
that.
Yeah, you could
That's
use it
awesome.
for there were other Konami games, so that's why it was called the Konami code. I was like, I thought it was just for Contra, and
Oh,
here, I'll have to see if I can dig up that video, but I was like, holy
hmm,
crap, look at
The
that.
thing I
So
like
yeah.
about the games, well, especially for people our age, like Atari and
Mhm.
original NES, those are the vintage games. So these are like the mantles, like
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
way I kind of look at it. Like
yeah.
30 years from now, if there is if there's a graded game market, if that even is a thing, that's the
Mhm.
stuff that's going to be like, whoa, that's like,
yeah,
it actually
Yeah,
sold games in boxes, because now it's all digital. Like I
yeah.
bought my
yeah.
son a game on Switch and I don't even have to go and like, there's not, it's like, it's either a cartridge that's this big,
Mhm.
or it's like I just download it, and that's
Download the
probably what
game.
it'll be. So
Like, but who the hell was laying around? Just had I think the one guy
Yeah.
had Zelda or a Super Mario in a
Super
box in his desk for 30 years, and it just happened to be sealed. I'm like, who the hell does that?
yeah,
If I got a video game when I was, 8 years old in 1980, 83, or it's 1985 and I'm 10, the first thing I'm doing is ripping the crap out of that box, getting it into my Nintendo and trying to finish the
Yeah.
game. Like, oh, let me buy 2 copies, one to play and one
Well,
for
I think it was either that or he got it for Christmas, birthday,
and never
whatever, and he
play.
screwed up. Mom took it away, put it up in the
yeah.
attic, and kid forgot about it. And
I
then,
saw I saw something like that too. It was a Zelda game, and a lady had bought it and forgot about it, and
wow,
it was like still in like the KB bag or something, like whatever the bag,
that's
Wow.
like
nuts.
JC Penney bag, and it was sealed, like but they just forgot about it, and it went. I think the thing with games is like how many are going to come out, because it came out, a lot of the stuff is in the 80s, and
Mhm.
so it's not like the 50s, it's going back further, but like how many of these were preserved and how many of them were just tossed away. Like the complete in box, what I've got, that's an opened game. So how many of those, boxes are still around in good condition,
Yeah.
and how many were trashed? We don't know that yet, but we'll know, 20 years down the road, it'll
Sure.
be very clear how many were actually
Yeah.
conserved. And then based
True
on
pop
that,
counts.
yeah, because the pop counts right now are very, very low. And it could just be that no one sent them in, or, whatever.
Mhm.
Like it could be a variety of things. So
A
that's why,
lot of people, they have these things in their attics, in their basements, in a box somewhere, uh, totally no idea that they even have it, totally
yeah,
forgot about it and don't even know that there's a market like that to get, these games graded and things like that. So yeah, you like you said, it's gonna take a while, for one thing, for water to actually become a thing and blow up and people recognize it, and then people can say, oh, there's a market for that. They didn't know I had this box of games. Let me see what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
thing with that too, we'll finish it up. I don't want to talk too much on that. I will waste your
No, no
all of
worries.
your time here, but is, if there's a lot of collectors too that just don't believe in grading on that side. But it kind of
Oh,
reminds me of like sports card people probably in 1990 when PSA started. There was probably a lot of people. Well, I know there was a lot of people because I
mhm,
was collecting in the 90s. I never saw graded cards. It took like a decade for it to even become
mhm.
like popular.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think, Tony, you're missing anything by just waiting, because eventually they'll come out, and then you'll have the true pops on stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see. See what
Yeah,
happens.
I just gotta make sure I get it before it pops off and everybody's, then the prices go through the roof. But like I said, I definitely want that punch out a graded one at some point. But I digress. Well, but back into your PC. I know, like you said, you do the Stranger Things
Yeah.
and your post the other day. Oz sent it to me twice now. He's like, look at this. I was like, you're such a freak.
Do you want me to go sports cards real quick, and then I'll go to
Sure, yeah,
Stranger?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay, we're
whatever.
all
Yeah,
for it. Let's
absolutely.
go.
Yeah.
So the most money I've ever spent on a card is 1750, and it was for the
Oh,
Luca PSA 10 Silver Prism. And for
Nice.
some people, this is like such a basic card, but for
mhm,
me, I remember Luca's kind of the basketball prospect that I really care about. Like I mean, nothing against LeBron and some of these guys, Steph, and these
mhm,
guys are amazing. But for the young players and Giannis, really, it's Luca that I'm kind of pulling for. He plays on like he doesn't play on a good team, so I think that's part of it too. It's like the underdog. It's like he's a great
yeah,
player on a team, whereas a Giannis has got a good team around him. He's got a title. So this was a card that during the height was like an $8,500 card. It went super
Yeah.
high.
It's
It's come
amazing.
down to, I got it at the National. And around that time it was about $2,000, and a guy had one at trade night, and I got it for 1750. Who knows? Maybe it goes down to $1,000 or something. Honestly, if it did, I'd probably get a second one just to have two in case, like, it moves in the future. I've got options or
Yeah.
whatever. But
I think that's just one, that's such an iconic card. That's one of those cards, like you said, 15, 20, 30 years from now, that's just going to be, the Luca card that you'll remember, almost like the 86
yeah,
Fleer. There's a ton of them, but, people respect it. And you got to have that in your collection. That's just one of those cards. I'm definitely eventually going to get that into my collection.
agreed. I'm just going to throw a couple of Tom Brady cards. Tom Brady's kind of I've got Drew Brees is my PC, but Tom Brady's kind of the GOAT that I collect. I'm a Jordan guy like you guys. I love Jordan, but I feel like it's just like I missed the boat until prices just maybe, who knows? There's a
Maybe.
depression or something and prices move down. Then I start getting into Jordan stuff for sure. But Tom Brady's kind of the guy for me. I feel like it's like Jordan on the Wizards, like at the end of his career. So this is like it's one of these like numbered parallels. This is the bubble version for Bowman, 2014 Bowman Chrome. It's numbered out at 99. It's a refractor. I really like the prism stuff, So I really like
it's nice.
14 to 16. This is 2015. It's the blue wave, so it's kind of a color match. It's numbered to 150. PSA 10. And then not numbered, but the stained glass. This is 2000.
I love the stained glass cards, man.
Yeah. So I had bid on a 9 for this and lost it. And then the 8 was right behind it. And I won this. But this is also, I like I think this is first year stained glass for Prism. I could be wrong on that, but I think it is the first year. And it's also Mahomes is like the Mahomes stained glass rookie year this is it's like $1 billion. Probably. It's like, man, that's a cool card. I'd love to have that card. So
that's awesome.
Barry Sanders, the GOAT. I met him at everyone's going to argue with me and say it's Walter Payton. This is first year or Jim Brown, excuse me. This is first year exquisite 2005 on card. And I got lucky and got this a couple of years ago when pricing just really wasn't very high on his stuff. But Barry Sanders is one of those guys.
That is my favorite non-Eagle. So just coming up, it was Randall Cunningham and it was Barry Sanders, man.
Yeah, absolutely. 89
guy here.
Larry Bird, I had to add one of these. I mean, had to add one. It's National Treasures. I think it's 17 or 18 on card auto, and I believe it's game worn material. Nice. So I was like, I
tell everybody I'm a closet Larry Bird, diehard fan. Like I don't let anybody know, but
I just like him because he wasn't, like the guy doesn't look athletic at all, but he was able to just body up with, he was just tough.
I think he would be Luca on steroids, like right now. You know what I mean? Like if he was playing right now, I think he'd kill everybody in the NBA. It'd just be sick.
It is. It's like Luca with a killer mentality, kind of like just a more competitive version.
Yeah. Oh, that is a banger right there.
I got this one. This is one of the first cards I bought when I came back in 2018. $200 for a PSA 3.
Wow. Nicely centered. So you're flashing up the Jimmy Brown rookie, because that card is hard to find, either centered or without that snow kind of stuff it's got going on the surface. So that's a very nice nice version.
I appreciate that. Yeah. It was one that it was kind of like, man, it's just an iconic card. And I remember as a kid too, like, and then that was actually an expensive card in 1990, so when you think back, that was actually like a pretty expensive card. And so that was when I was like, man, I gotta pick one of those up. Yeah. I'm not a big baseball card guy, but I was looking around. I'm on a Barry Bonds kick right now for his autos. Nice. Don't even get me started on PEDs and him not getting into the Hall of Fame.
So here, hold that thought. You can tell not everybody, but that 38 to 48 group of people, those are the ones leading the charge. Like, enough is enough. Get this dude in the hall. Like, just stop the crap, because everybody was cheating. So, and Oz, you and Oz can lead that parade, because Oz is right with you with that.
I'm with you. So I've been focused on Bonds, but I did pick this up about a year ago. Willie Mays. And this is a Sweet Sigs. I really like the early 2000s Fleer stuff. And this one, I looked it up. I think it was Cardboard Connection. But basically, it was like, this was a redemption. There's only about 60 of them. It's not numbered, but it's not easy to come by. It's a PSA 7, but it's the highest grade of this. So there's no 8s, 9s, and 10s. So this is the highest grade version. And it was a price point where it's just, it was right around $500 at the time. And so his stuff has gone up quite a bit. And
Yeah, Willie, man, Willie. I've been telling Tony that's the guy.
I
That's the
know,
guy,
yeah,
and
I
he's still
know.
around. And it's that one thing with the hobby: when people pass away, there's gonna be a bump. So yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This is one of the bonds. I don't. There's one of these on eBay. I'm going to ruin this for myself, but I can't buy it. So if anybody is interested,
There
there's
you
one
Not
go.
of these.
allowed.
I think it went on. I think it's up for $250 if it hasn't sold. But and
Wow.
it's raw. I went. I sent this off to SGC, but it's 2002, so it's playing days. It's Giants.
Mhm.
It's game used bat, and it's an on card auto. And this one was like $275. It's not cheap, but I mean, if you think about the legends of the game, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, um, so yeah. So those are
Amazing.
the sports stuff that I picked out. I've got more obviously, but I didn't want it. I could be on here for
Sure.
4 hours with you guys, so I don't want to waste your time
That's
here.
awesome.
All right, Dustin. Let's get to
Um,
the real stuff. Come on, let's get
yes.
the Stranger
Here we
Things.
go.
I'm going to come out
Screw all
with
that sports stuff.
So this is something that you're not going to see too often. So this is Billy
Ooh,
Hargrove doesn't have very many cards. So series
right.
2 was where it started for him. This is a brick. So I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to grade it or not. But so the blue border is numbered out of 10. So of course it's the same as the autos,
Right.
where
Okay.
the blue borders, then you have like the waffle cards and stuff. They're numbered out
Hmm.
of 11. But I wanted to pull that one out because you don't really see those. I honestly, like, I haven't seen another Billy Hargrove that's numbered out of 10, the blue
Yeah,
version.
I've never
You've
seen
probably
one.
seen these online.
Yeah.
Dustin Henderson. This one's the
Yep.
green version, numbered out of 50. It's first year 2018.
Nice.
So the thing I really like about Stranger Things cards, it's very simple. With sports cards, it's like you got every color of the rainbow, and then you got the eel
Mhm.
skin and the tiger print and all.
Right.
There's all the stuff. With Stranger Things, it's so damn basic. It's like you
Yep.
got the base set, and then you've got 4 parallels. You got orange, you got green, purple, and blue. So this is the green that popped up. You do have kind of variation. So this is and that's on card. On card is kind of tricky. This is a sticker
Right.
auto. It's also 2018, but this is the patch
Hmm.
auto. This is the RPA,
Yeah.
Dustin.
Gotcha.
And
The
some
national treasures.
yeah, and unfortunately, it's like it's sticker autos though, and we hate
Yeah.
sticker autos, but like 11 Millie Bobby Brown only has sticker
Right.
autos in these sets, so it's all you got, So you got to
Let
take.
me ask you, do you think for the new release of Zero Cool, are they going to have her do an on-card auto? Is it going to be sticker again?
I don't know, but they'll be. I think they'll be really expensive if they're on card because they're
Oh
the
yeah.
only on card autos. Yeah. So, and again, it's kind of one of those things. If you are a investor, people hate
Mhm.
that, but it's more about for me just can it carry value moving forward and rarity scarcity. There just aren't any options. So if
Yeah.
there's all of a sudden a huge push for Stranger Things, if the demand goes like this, there is just no
Right.
supply. There's no supply. This is an interesting one that I got graded. I don't think anyone else has graded these, but this is the original Comic-Con card that was
Mm.
given out at New York Comic-Con going back to 2018, leading up to that
Oh,
2018
Wow.
set. So I grabbed a few of these. They were on eBay raw for like $20. I don't think anyone has graded any. And it's just, I think it's kind of a cool, just historical card. It's like this was kind of the promo card. This is basically
Mhm.
like the Zero Cool cards that you were getting Oz
Right, right.
at National. This is like that at New York Comic Con before anyone even cared. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
the
what the hell?
original.
Keep it.
Wow.
yeah.
And people didn't really keep them. I think they probably trashed them or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got 3 of these and a 9. I was like, can I please just get a 10? And then the fourth
Yeah.
one it's got like a bent corner. So it's like, all right, well,
Jeez.
that's
So
that.
Oz, well, real quick, Dustin, before you get the
Yeah.
next one. So Oz, how quickly do you want me to put this up online so you can start your checklist?
Yeah. It's between him and Aaron from Slab Stocks. I definitely got,
Yeah. The
because
three of you
I've
guys,
been,
yeah, get together and
yeah,
there's gonna be
I've
some
been
trouble.
collecting a bunch of Funkos. I've been collecting just the regular toys. I got the comic book. I got, the promo set. So now it's gonna be, the specific cards themselves and the autographs and diving deeper
Yeah.
into those sets. But now it's like you guys got in it early. So now those cards you go look at some autos now and on eBay and it's like, oh my God, and that's just insane what they're asking for.
Yeah. And it's cool. I think the one thing that I like is it's very basic as far as the checklist,
Yeah.
But when one pops up, you're like, oh damn, because you just don't see them. You just
Right.
don't see
And the
them
thing
pop
is,
up.
there it's maybe not like, thousands of people looking at it, but there might be 10 to 15 that are
Yeah.
diehard that want that card. So, whenever you have more than, 10 people looking at a card, that easily can jump up in price, especially if it's an auction.
I'll show
Yeah.
two cards. These came from the UK. So here's another thing:
Huh.
is there's a lot of Stranger Things hobby
Yeah.
boxes that weren't even open in the US. So they're in Japan, they're all over the place. But these are Dustin Henderson, and if you
Mm.
look, they're redemptions.
Oh, wow.
So his I don't know if it's all of his autos, but this one is actually 2019. I think it is all of his autos from 18 and 19 were all
Redemption.
redemptions.
I
And
think so.
so
Yeah.
from 2018, like the 2 years is up. Like if you get it, like if I go open, I've got a hobby box for 18 and I've got series 2. I got series 1 and series 2, but if you open a box now and you get a redemption, too bad. Like you're not going to get one,
Yeah,
so
I think Courtney opened up a hobby box and got the Dustin redemption card. She was pissed as hell. She's like, "Are you serious?" And she was
yeah.
trying her damnedest at the National to try to, get them to redeem it. They're like, "No."
Yeah, so that's another thing. It might be numbered to 10, but like it's rare that it's numbered to 10, but then how many are actually out there in the universe,
Right.
that actually got done. So I'll just show these together. I think I've got 411 autos, but this is, so this one is numbered out of 25. This came from the autograph collection set. It was released in 2020 and it was online only and it sold
Yeah.
out really fast. And it's funny because I'll go back to Blowout forums and I'll look this up and it'll be like, oh yeah, I sold that for $100. Like nobody cared. Nobody cared about these. And now they're quite a bit more expensive. I've got this one that's numbered out of 25, and I've got one that's out of 10. And
Mm.
then this one is season
Snowball.
2. It's the patch auto again. But it's numbered out of 10. Yeah. So you've got kind of the patch autos. Let's see if it's
Yep.
10 out of
There it
10.
is. Oh, 10 out of 10. Nice.
Yeah. So it would be cool if they were numbered out of 11, I guess.
Yeah,
But
that would be cool. But I guess that's what the waffle cards are for.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I'll show these together too, because part of the reason I'm doing this because these are different sets. So it's like giving you kind of a different view. But
Gotcha.
these were 2019 80. These are 85 promo cards. So if you see, this is like an 85 tops football card. But this was sold online in lots of 5, and they sold. Is this one also a promo? Let me see. Yeah, it is. Okay, so this is a Billy Hargrove promo. But they were sold in lots of 5 online. But again, they sold out and then they were gone. You can still see, like you can go on ComC on eBay and they're out there, but there's just not. It's funny because like the print runs, you can tell. And actually, I think there's a site where I looked where I think the print runs are like 140 for each or something. It's very limited. Like there's just not very many because there wasn't huge demand for it.
Right.
They didn't print a billion of them because they're like, well, we don't know if we're even going to sell them. So, they printed those out and then that's it. There's like 140 each of those. And, so I picked those up. This is one that was cool. This is the creators, the Duffer Brothers. It's not easy. Dual autos and triple autos. I should have pulled it out, but I don't. The only triple auto I've got is the Mom's. It's kind of funny. It's literally called the
Now, is
Mom's.
Mrs. Wheeler on there?
Yeah, it's got Mrs. Wheeler. It's got all 3 of
Rob,
them.
the sports card therapist. Eat your heart out, brother.
Yeah. She's a babe. Yeah, she's a
Yeah.
babe.
Oh, say that again. Say that again. She's a babe.
Yeah. The triple autos though, it's like 1 out of like 11,000 packs, and it's numbered to 10. This one is also
the Duffer Brothers. That's one of the chase cards right there, man. That's like one of the cards to have. That's dope. And it's 10 out of 10.
It's really, really tough to find. I found it raw on eBay for $300. And I remember I bought it for $300. I asked my daughter, I'm like, am I a total idiot? And of course I'm asking I'm asking my 18-year-old daughter at the time. She's like, $300, that's it. I'm like, you don't know anything about money. Be quiet.
Right.
It's like, my younger daughter is like, it's only $300. And I'll look at her like, girl.
But yeah, it's like, it's a raw card. It's a Stranger Things card. It's $300.
Yeah.
But then when you look at like how many of them are there, how rare is it? It's like it's twin brother creators. Like, it's like, it's really scarce. It's our favorite show. Let's go for it.
That's awesome, man. Cool. I appreciate you sharing, man. This is see, it's stuff like this that gets me, I start geeking out because these are the things that makes the hobby special. Because I always tell Tony, like, you can't be put into a box when it comes to the hobby because there's so many things that you can do. whether you want to, like I always say, you want to collect coins, you want to collect Stranger Things, you want to collect He-Man video games, or you want to do vintage, you want to do modern, you want to do ultra modern. I mean, there's so many avenues you can go.
Mhm.
So to just, sit there and try to say, well, no, this is the right way to collect. All that other crap, you're just wasting your money. And it's like, you can't really say that, because at any point in time, this stuff can just all go to zero.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee in anything, and even in vintage, and even in the Babe Ruth and all that. Like, granted, those are a lot more safer than, say, a Millie Bobby Brown auto. If you could have a Babe Ruth, you choose the two. But honestly, I'd rather have that Millie Bobby Brown auto, because it means more to me for
Yeah.
two reasons. One, I love Stranger Things. And two, it's a connection that I have with my daughter that I've been forming, and that you share the same thing with your kids, because it's something I know you're probably similar to me. I think your wife's not interested too much in Stranger Things.
She doesn't like scary stuff.
Right,
So yeah, and or like sci-fi. So yeah, she's not. But like
right. So, but your
and then I have
kids love
and
it.
then I have a 7-year-old that's not allowed to watch it. But everybody, so me and the other 3 kids, we're all over it. So
Yeah,
and that was the other thing too, is like when I get sports cards, like my son will be like, "Oh, that's cool," "Oh, that's signed, that's awesome." But like my kids don't care about anything. But then when I got like Stranger Things stuff, they're like, "Oh man, that's
yeah,
awesome,"
yeah. I
like
heard you like got them specific cards for them, and your one daughter took it
yeah.
to college with her.
Yeah, yeah, I got 2 of kind of the, they're on card, so they're actually in person. They are on card Millie Bobby Brown autos, but it's similar to your comic book,
Yeah,
to where it's like it was an in-person signature, and
yeah,
it was like $100 for each of the. It was like BGS graded. I think there actually might be some still on eBay,
yeah.
but I was like, man, it's a cool autograph. They're into it, so yeah, I got each of them one, and
That's
yeah,
dope.
they love that.
I love it.
It's
Love
awesome.
it. Love it. Love it.
Well, so Dustin, as we wrap up here, before we get to the last question, let everybody know where they can find you and your content at.
Yeah, I'm the Sports Card Dad on YouTube. I'm at Sports Card Dad on IG, and then I'm Sports Card Dad on Twitter. I would say those are probably the 3 places where I hang out the most.
Yeah, I gotcha. And I mean, we've been watching your content leading up to this, and it's cool. Like you said, it's you do a little bit of news, some cards, yeah, obviously card stuff, but it's a nice variety. The channel is nice, and I know you have a big staff that you guys work with, and it's a big production. So kudos to all you guys over
Yeah.
there. You guys being yourself, but like I said, you do a heck of a job with that. And we've kind of talked about. I mean, you've hit a little bit of not so much advice, but just talking about things that maybe can go sideways into hobbies. So just talk about some advice for newer collectors, or people just whatever it is, collecting, getting into Stranger Things. It's just stuff that just things that you can do to have at least the best time you can in the hobby.
Well, kind of going back to what you guys were saying, I think it's not as much, following the crowd. It's just more of figuring out what you like to do, and, not necessarily just following what's cool on IG or on YouTube or whatever it is. I mean, I've gotten all sorts of flack for Stranger Things cards. I've been called like the biggest moron on earth. You're spending how much
Mhm.
money on Stranger Things? And, but again, it goes back. You always hear it, collect what you love, but like, are we actually doing that? So if you're a new person coming in, and look, if you're a new person coming in, you might not have those answers yet. You might have to kind of research a lot and maybe buy a few things. Okay, I like this, I don't like this. That's kind of what everybody does or did.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing to, buy something and then a year later say, oh man, I like this thing better, so maybe I'll sell this and get into something else. That's what's fun about all of it. Or trade out. People like they're trading cards. You can trade them. So someone might have something you like now that you didn't really care about a couple of years ago. You trade. That's what's fun about collectibles. So, but it should be fun. Whether it's collecting something or content too. Because I talk to a lot of different content creators, and I genuinely enjoy making the content part. It's not a chore for me at all. So, again, if the content becomes a chore, then maybe scale it back a little bit, or I mean, like, you just enjoy it. This is not supposed to be some stressful thing. It's supposed to be the thing that's not stressful in your life. Work and family and all that stuff can take all the, that's enough stress in itself. So just enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to it was funny because right before like I said, I'm a mailman, and I was like, I wonder what Sports Card Dad, what he came out with, his latest video. And then I seen you actually did a video on Rob the Sports Card Therapist, and Ken Karen's sports card lessons. And we happen to be part of the quote unquote wolf pack. I
Oh,
don't know if,
nice. Yeah.
yeah,
I
if you're
watched those
familiar
guys
with that.
and I heard about that. Yeah. When I
Yeah,
watched,
yeah. So Rob had, invited us extended the olive branch for us to join, which was awesome. And so we chat. It's the group chat of all group chats, and it's fun, and we just have a ton of just crazy things that are said in that chat. But we're all trying to work together to build like a hobby network and build a channel and expand that. So it was just funny how I was like, let me see what he did, and then it was bang, it was Rob and it was Ken, and he did a really good job with their last episode that they did. So I thought that was pretty cool, man.
Thanks. Yeah, that's something where it's popular on YouTube, those reaction videos. You see like
Yes.
reaction to this song or this movie or whatever. And I was like, why don't I do, because I watch all this hobby content, why don't I react? And then I can actually kind of call them, like shout them out, not call them out, shout them out. And then that's kind of like I'm working together, like I'm helping them too. So
Yeah.
they have a good, whoever it is has a good talking point. I can kind of build off of that. But then also I'm like, hey, go and check out that channel. And that's helping them. It's kind of a win-win, I think, for everybody.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Tony, you
Yeah.
good?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Appreciate this. Listen, we're definitely I'm gonna hit you up now. I know that's your collection, that's your PC, but if you got anything that you might be willing to part with, because like I said, I'd rather like do business with somebody that I know, so I feel like we know each other. We
Sure,
talked
yeah.
about card addictions and a lot of other things, He-Man and video games. So if we can get a little business going on the side with some of them, you said you have multiple Millie Bobby Brown autos. I might just try to take one off your hand if
All
possible.
right, yeah, definitely.
Your wife might appreciate it. So
Well, she's
it's
not going to
Valentine's Day
appreciate
coming
that.
up.
The thing is, she's not going to appreciate. He's going to trade you 6 Skeletors for,
Yeah, yeah,
so you're going to get rid of one card, but you're bringing in, 6
yeah,
Skeletors,
exactly.
all that.
I
Yeah,
love it, I love it.
yeah, but that's what makes the hobby special, man. But we really appreciate you. We know you're a busy man, and taking time away from your family to come on board with us. But yeah, that's it, brother. And we're gonna end this like we always do, and that's keep focused, keep positive, and keep collecting. Hey, yo, Tone, bring the beat back.